The Maze Runner came out 17 years ago. No, I'm not lying. So that means I had nearly 2 decades to read the book, and I still didn't. But a girl could only take being out of the loop for so long. So in this week's video, I decided that I would finally read The Maze Runner. And now I kind of get it. Emphasis on kind of. I don't know what's going on. What the hell? We need to end this. We need to end this right now. For 2 years? Why? I just don't understand. I'm already 23% through this book, and I meant to update you guys so much earlier, but it was just so good. I had to keep reading it. I can't believe I'm enjoying it as much as I am, because I thought this was a YA book, and I'm pretty sure it is, but it's not reading super young adult because of how heavy the themes are. This book is so much more intellectual than I was expecting, and not that it's saying anything profound, just that it's speaking on an adult level, and I completely wasn't expecting that. But that's enough of me glazing the writing style. Let's get into the actual meat of the book, because it's so entertaining so far. I don't know if I've told you guys yet, but I have seen the movie, so I kind of know like the general theme. I watched the movie so long ago though that I don't actually remember any details, so everything feels so new to me, aside from the actual like structure that we're in and the first couple chapters, like him waking up inside of this like metal box thing. Let's actually get into that because it's quite freaky. Albie seems to be the main leader of all these boys. He's one of the oldest, and Thomas assumes he's 17, which is literally insane. These are actual baby children, and I'm genuinely struggling to understand how they're all being so brave through it all, but I guess it's like a psychological response, because what else are they supposed to do, like cry and sit there? I don't know. Also, the way they speak is a little bit odd. So they do speak English like Thomas does, but it seems like they're creating a new version of English based on their time in the Glade. So there's lots of new words that Thomas doesn't understand, and they speak to him with this vocabulary, so it's just making him even more confused. At one point, someone in the wooden house starts screaming bloody murder, and whenever he asks one of the boys what's going on, they say that a griever got the kid, but not to worry because he's getting a serum. It's just super painful. But Thomas needs to see what's happening, so he goes into this house, and he is met with something incredibly traumatizing. A twisted, pale figure writhing in agony, chest bare and hideous. Tight, rigid cords of sickly green veins webbed across the boy's body and limbs like ropes under his skin. Purplish bruises covered the kid, red hives, bloody scratches. His bloodshot eyes bulged, darting back and forth. The image had already burned into Thomas's mind before Albie jumped up, blocking the view, but not the moans and screams, pushing Thomas out of the door, then slamming the door shut behind them. So obviously something is going on with this kid. Whatever the griever is, did its big one on him, and they're trying their best to doctor him back to health, but it doesn't seem to be working very well. All of these boys have been stuck inside of this encampment for years, so the maze must be absolutely gigantic, and it also seems to be deadly because there is a giant gravesite past the forest where a bunch of dead boys lie. But for some reason, despite the fear that Thomas feels about seeing a griever and understanding the severity of the maze that he's trapped in, he keeps feeling a draw towards being a runner. He wants to be a runner so bad, and he knows it deep in his bones that he's going to be, or that he maybe was in the past. But as the reader, we don't know what that entails yet. While Albie is giving the tour, the alarm flares, and that means that a newbie has arrived. And keep in mind, it's only been 24 hours since Thomas showed up, so this is a super rare scenario that they've never seen before. So they open up the little elevator shaft, whatever it is, and there's a girl inside. So basically this girl that's presumed dead sits up, says everything is going to change, and then falls back down into a coma. And in her hand is a little piece of paper, and on this paper it says she's the last one ever. So what does this mean? Nobody knows. And honestly, they're all kind of suspecting that Thomas has something to do with it because he just entered their little community and then she follows right after. It's kind of suspicious. But Thomas says that he doesn't recognize her at all, but inside he feels like he might. The next day, Thomas goes to explore the forest, and he actually comes to the gravesite, and then he hears breaking branches behind him and then someone running towards him, and it's actually Ben, the sick kid. And Ben is acting insane, like crazy. He has a knife in his hand and he's trying to kill Thomas, and he's saying things like, he's not one of us, I saw him, he's bad, we have to kill him, let me gut him, he'll want to take us home, he'll want to get us out of the maze, better we all jumped off the cliff, better we tore each other's guts out. So what does Ben know, and why does he hate Thomas so much, and why doesn't he want to escape the maze? Why wouldn't he want to go home? The tension is building, and I have to know what's inside the maze. But I guess I'll have to keep reading to find out, so I'll update you guys as soon as I have more thoughts. Bye for now. I'm only 40% through, but so much has happened. I really feel like I need to talk to you guys about it because I'm kind of freaking out. I really am so happy that this book has never been spoiled for me and that I don't remember the ending from the movie because I'm genuinely so curious what the hell is going on here. Specifically regarding Thomas and that girl's role in all of this, because everyone's starting to get kind of suspicious. Even if it's something subconscious, I think everybody's thinking somewhat of the same thing. Like, why is all this weird shit happening now that Thomas is here? And even Thomas is starting to question what his relation to the girl is and what it all might mean. So let me update you guys about everything that I've just found out. So we left off when Ben was going through the changing and then he went crazy in the forest and started attacking Thomas, and then he was shot and killed by Albie. But turns out he wasn't killed. He was still very much alive. So they basically decide they have to banish him out of their community because he tried to kill a member. So they have this super long pole that has a collar on the end of it. They tie it around Ben's neck and like push him into the maze and then pull the little arm back once the doors of the maze close. So he was trapped in there and basically destined to be killed by a griever. So they just kind of like dusted their hands of him and they were on their way. And it was super graphic in its descriptions, like the way that Ben was begging for his life and the way snot and mucus was like coming out of his face along with all his tears. Like, I'm honestly shocked that this is YA and that so many of you read this when you were so young. I feel like it would have traumatized me. Like, I genuinely feel that way. So now I think it's the perfect time to update you guys about what a griever really looks like. Its body resembled a gigantic slug, sparsely covered in hair and glistening with slime, grotesquely pulsating in and out as it breathed. It had no distinguishable head or tail, but front to end, it was at least 6 feet long and 4 feet thick. What about 8 inches in thick? Every 10 to 15 seconds, sharp metal spikes popped through its bulbous flesh, and the whole creature abruptly curled into a ball and spun forward. It did this over and over, traveling just a few feet at a time. Several randomly placed mechanical arms stuck out here and there, each one with a different purpose. A few had bright lights attached to them, others had long, menacing needles. One had a 3-fingered claw that clasped and unclasped for no apparent reason. Thomas wondered what, or who, could create such frightening, disgusting creatures. I'm also wondering that, and apparently all the boys think there's creators of some sort, obviously, that have trapped them in the maze, but they really only call them the creators and they know nothing about them. Aside from the fact that they monitor the boys through using beetle blades, which are basically big beetles with a red bright light on them that the boys think is some sort of camera, and along the beetle's back it says wicked. Thank you. So I'm not sure what the correlation there is going to be, but I'm interested to find out. Back to the maze, Thomas is running away from 4 grievers, and then Mino finds him and like pulls him into the alleyway and tells him that he saw how Thomas maneuvered away from that griever and they're going to use that technique to get rid of the other 4. And they eventually come to what looks like the end of the maze, but it's actually just like an opening into a void. It's basically described as space, like empty blackness with little dots of stars. And guess what they do? They use Thomas's little jumping out of the way trick to avoid all 4 grievers, and the grievers plummet to their death, but actually they don't plummet, they just disappear. Like, as soon as they fall into the void, they cease to exist. Like, there's no noise even coming from them anymore. It almost sounds like a game when the developers don't develop past a certain point, so maybe they're in some kind of video game. I don't know. These are the first people ever to survive the night in the maze without dying, so as soon as the maze wall opens, everybody's freaking out that they're alive and they want to know everything that happened. But Thomas's main concern is getting Albie down, so they get Albie down, they give him the serum. So now Albie's going through what's called the changing. And apparently the changing brings back memories. Just little snippets, but definite memories of before we came to this horrible place. Anyone who goes through it acts like a bloody psycho when it's over. Although usually not as bad as poor Ben. Anyway, it's like being given your old life back only to have it snatched away again. Thomas's mind was churning. Are you sure? He asked. Are they changed because they want to go back to their old life? Or is it because they're so depressed at realizing their old life was no better than what we have now? So all that really revealed to me is that Thomas is a thinker. He questions what he's being told and he doesn't necessarily believe it right away, which I actually really respect and like about him, because he had asked Mino about climbing up the vines and Mino basically dismissed him because they'd tried that before, and he actually uses it in a way that saves all 3 of their lives for the first time ever. So obviously listening to these boys that think they have it all figured out is not necessarily the right answer. Ever since Thomas has arrived, weird things have been happening, and especially regarding the girl. She said everything was going to change, and change it did, and it seems like it all ties back to Thomas. And then Albie says, I know who you are to Thomas. And it's with negative implication. Like apparently Thomas has done something bad that has ruined some of their happiness or something like that. I don't really know what he was trying to say, but Albie's ultimately upset that he has this understanding now. Like he's upset by this changing that he's been through. And then Albie tries to kill himself. I'm pretty sure he was trying to choke himself or like bite his tongue off, something like that. Something that would prevent him from explaining to Thomas what he was talking about. And whenever they get Albie to stop, he starts saying he was not in control, like something was happening to him that was forcing him to try to kill himself. I don't know if they're all being like mind controlled in a way, or once they get stung, they can be controlled. That's probably more realistic, but I don't know what's going on. And I really, really want to, because Albie also said to be careful with the girl and to protect the maps. So what is going to happen? Like, is the girl bad? Is she going to try and steal the maps? Is Thomas bad? And was he sent by the creators to harm the community or to push them forward only to get them trapped again? I don't know what's going on. And in a way, I wish I did. I wish a little bit more context was provided, but I think all the not knowing is what's making it so interesting and is what's ultimately keeping me invested. And I'm very much invested. I need to know what's going to happen. And I'm so shocked that I haven't been spoiled up to this point. How has no one ruined this ending for me? I'm not sure. I'll see you guys as soon as I've read more and we can talk about my thoughts then. Bye! What in the heliante is going on? Like, actually, what? This book got so crazy last night. I meant to update you guys way earlier, but I'm already at 82% because I couldn't stop reading. I couldn't stop reading last night. So the first insane thing that happened was when Thomas went to go see the girl and she communicates in her mind to his mind, Tom, we're the last ones. It'll end soon. It has to. They sent me as a trigger. It was you and me, Tom. We did this to them, to us. So what the hell? He runs into the maze because he's just so overwhelmed by everything, and he runs for like an hour. And it's in this moment that he realizes he's in perfect shape and that the maze is way bigger than he expected it to be, because he's nowhere near the end and he's run like half a marathon at this point. Also, Gally, the bully, ended up running off into the maze in the night and no one knows where he is. We also got to see Chuck and Thomas's friendship grow, which is really cute. I do wish it was a little bit deeper, but I guess it doesn't make sense that it would be because they haven't been there that long. But I just know that being in such intense circumstances with other people speed runs your relationship. You're basically trauma bonding with people, so it's just so easy to connect with others that are going through similar difficult experiences with you. But I do really like their relationship, although it's not super deep. They are really young, so I guess it makes sense. Then Thomas goes to meet Albie after he wakes up, and Albie says that he saw Thomas with the creators in his dream. So now he has a lot of suspicion regarding Thomas, but he also has suspicion regarding the serum and the changing in the first place. Like, what if the creators are feeding them inaccurate information in order to make them turn against Thomas or the girl or the situation in general? Because so much was revealed to him, but so much that we didn't get to know. Like, the way that he was talking about it was not very clear, which I didn't love, because at this point when I was reading this part of the story, I was on the edge of my seat. Like, I felt like the author was edging me this entire book. So that's ultimately why I decided to just keep reading, because I was like, guys, we need to end this. We need to end this right now. I need to know what's going on. At this point, keep in mind that Thomas is about to become a runner, so he gets running shoes, which he realizes the creators send them every month. And then Mino explains that the maze is broken up into 8 sections, and one runner takes on each section. So every single day for hours at a time, they run through their section of the maze and they write down any of the turns that are different, and then they bring that map that they just created back to a map room, which is insane. And it's at this point that Thomas and Mino are inside the maze and they bring up the dead Griever, and for some reason Mino never thought to question where the dead Griever went when it ran away, because we know that they disappear at night, so where are they going during the day? This is a question I had, obviously, but apparently none of the other guys asked. The lighting is changing so much, but we need to keep talking about this, so just disregard. It was also insane hearing about the signs that are on the walls of the maze. Thomas read one and it said, "World in Catastrophe, Kill Zone Experiment Department." Huh? Like, that's creepy, that's creepy. And it's at this point that Thomas realized he already hates being a runner because it all feels so pointless. And especially regarding the way that Mino talks about it, it seems like they've been running and they've been mapping and nothing is working. So Mino's honestly ready to give up, and as is Thomas. At the end of the day, Thomas hears in his subconscious mind the girls say, "Tom, I just triggered the ending." So what the hell does that mean? The next day when everybody wakes up, the sun is gone. It's literally a gray ceiling, or at least that's what it looks like. So this maze that they've been trapped trapped and is starting to be weird. Like, it's starting to glitch in uncomfortable ways, it seems like. Thomas ends up following one of the grievers that just walks into the maze, and he watches it walk off the cliff. The abyss, like the darkness that we were talking about earlier, where they tricked the grievers into falling into, apparently that's where they go, intentionally. So Thomas and Mino start throwing rocks into it until one of the rocks disappears in a very specific segment of this abyss. By the time Mino and Thomas get back, everyone communicates that the creators have stopped sending them supplies. So what the hell is going on? No more supplies, a weird abyss where the grievers are entering, and the sky's gray. And then the girl communicates to Thomas in his mind that she's gonna forget everything soon, but that the maze is a code. What the hell? The girl ends up waking up from her coma and she goes straight to Thomas, like he's intentionally hiding from her, and she finds him. And the way that she was talking to him so casually did bug me a little bit, but I know that she feels inside that she's deeply connected to him and that they do know each other in the past. But it was just so weird how casually she was talking to him, and then how casually he responded despite being so scared of the fact that she was talking in his head. So I did feel like that was a little bit out of place, but I guess it makes sense because I do think they know each other. And then the walls don't end up closing that night, so the maze is staying open, so obviously grievers are going to come. And for some reason Newt and Albie think that the girl has to do with it, which, like, I guess she might. So they end up locking her in the same prison that Thomas was trapped in once. So all of the guys basically have to hide out in the house, and they board up the windows because they know grievers are coming, and they're all so freaking scared when one starts literally scaling the house. And then none other than Gally storms in, and he's acting psychotic. Like, he looks dirty, he's obviously been in the maze, and he starts ripping off the paneling that they nailed to the window to keep the griever out. He's tearing it off, and he's going like absolutely ballistic. He keeps screaming that no one understands what the changing did to him, and that they shouldn't want to remember the real world, and that the grievers are going to kill each of them one by one until the experiment's over. And everyone's so freaked out. Like, imagine that actually happening, and imagine being a young boy experiencing that. I literally can't. And then Gally literally jumps into the griever's body, so he literally commits suicide, and the griever takes him away. That night Albie goes to study the maps, and then by the morning the entire building is burning, and Albie has a slash mark on his head because apparently someone slammed his head into the table. But honestly, I think that Albie probably tried to burn the maps. Sue me, but I don't know who else would do it. I really think that since Albie went through the changing, he might think that they're safer in the maze than they would be in the real world, and that could potentially be true. Apparently, Mino and Newt knew that someone might try to damage the maps because of Albie's warning a long time ago, so they saved all of the maps. Which also doesn't seem super realistic to me, because imagine how many maps they've been creating, because every runner has been making a new map every single day for 2 years, and there's 8 runners. That's a lot of maps. So how would Newt and Mino have made so many duds without it seeming suspicious? I don't really know. Thomas and Teresa end up talking about what the maps might reveal if they were able to look at them differently. Maybe if you were to stack maps 1 through 8 for the same day, it might reveal a letter. So they end up doing this, and it looks like there's an F that's being revealed based on where all of the lines overlap. So they start doing this with all of the maps. They figured out the words, and they are as follows: float, catch, bleed, death, stiff, push. And then there's a week of silence, and then the pattern repeats again. So what do these freaking words mean? I need to know right now, genuinely right now. It's at this point that Thomas decides he's going to get stung by a griever on purpose so that he can get some of those memories through the changing. And he does it, of course, but we don't get to see anything as the readers. That literally pissed me off so bad. Like, I know information is coming, but to be in Thomas's point of view and then not get anything from the author, that genuinely pissed me off. I was like, are you actually kidding me? And then I had to keep reading. And at this point, it honestly wasn't even in a fun way. I was genuinely like, why would you not show us anything? Like, now we don't even get to know what a changing really is, because he just said, like, he saw a tunnel, it was like hazy, he walked into the light or something. Like, boy, that's dumb as hell. Give us something, damn. We do eventually get to know some things because Thomas wants to hold a meeting about the things that he saw when he was changing. So in summary, the story that he's trying to piece together based on his memories is that the maze is basically a test to weed out the weak ones so that they can do something with the survivors. I don't know what the something is. Based on his memories, he's concluded that the world's imperfect, the creators stole them, and that these specific boys have an above average IQ, and that all of their names are made up. This part was so goofy. I was trying to take it seriously, but it was just so crazy. Like, I don't even know what I think about this. Apparently, Albie is short for Albert Einstein. Newt is short for Isaac Newton, and Thomas is short for Thomas Edison. Like, boy, goofy ass. Like, actually goofy ass. That's so silly to me, but it did shock me. So, like, I'll give him that. Apparently, the maze and the variables are to test whether or not boys that are like super geniuses would be okay accepting that there is no solution. This is a maze that cannot be solved, so apparently scientists had put them in this experiment to see if they would be willing to accept that there's no way to win. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I still don't know if these are actually the answers, but this is what the changing has revealed to Thomas. And also Thomas saw that he was actually in the room with the creators when they decided to make the maze patterns align into letters. But I don't really know yet. I do still have 20% more to read, and obviously I'm dying to get there, but I am getting a little bit annoyed by how long it's taken to figure this all out. But on the flip side of that same coin, it is really fun to not know what's going on and to slowly get little bits of the information revealed. But regardless, I'm going to keep reading and I'm almost done. So the next update, I will have finished the book and I can reveal to you guys the ending and also what I thought about it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye! I finished the book and I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good, but the ending is like, it's kind of pissing me off. It's kind of pissing me off, I'm not gonna lie. Because to be honest, I didn't know that this is a series and this is the first of 5 books. So obviously there are so many questions that I still have that yes, make me curious about the next book, but also kind of piss me off because why can't this just stand alone? Because I have so many things that I feel like are bothering me about this book, but there's such little things and they're also things that make me curious about the next book. So I guess that's the author's intention, but also like, I feel like I'm not making any sense. So let's talk about the plot and I will give you guys my thoughts every step of the way. So Thomas and all the boys decided to go into the abyss, which obviously, I literally want to say like obviously, there was nothing else about the maze. I'm so confused how for 2 years all of the boys were just okay running the same routes and making note of the same patterns and then not even trying to stack the maps or like, okay, maybe as the reader it feels obvious once Thomas figures things out, but to me, I'm like kind of shocked by how stupid all of the boys seemed. All the ones that were in the maze before Thomas, like why were they not trying everything in their ability? Why were they, oh my gosh, it's making me so mad now. It's actually pissing me off now. Please don't hate me, but it really feels like the boys that were in the maze didn't try very hard or they were just stupid. Like actually dumb. I'm so confused how for 2 years they were trying these things, but like they didn't really. Like none of them ever tried to dodge the Griever like Thomas did. None of them ever tried that. Are you actually kidding? Not a single person. And also with the maps, none of them ever tried to stack maps 1 through 8 for the same day. None of them ever tried that. I don't know. I'm just having so much trouble believing that they were so okay with doing the same thing over and over and over again for 2 years. And then finally Thomas comes in and he's able to figure everything out first go, which like, yes, I understand the scientists put him in there and he had this knowledge that none of them had because he had to do with making the maps or whatever. But I'm having so much trouble. Like I'm having so much trouble trying to come to terms with the fact that it seemed like the boys didn't try very hard to get out. And these are supposed to be like Einstein level geniuses. You're kidding. Like you're actually kidding. And none of them slept in the maze overnight for 2 years. For 2 years, none of them were ever curious where the Grievers went. I'm so confused. Because I feel like all of those things are things that I would wonder. If I was trapped in a maze for 2 years, I feel like I would be going insane. I would be like, what the hell are we doing, guys? We need to lock in. And I feel like none of them were locked. None of them were locked. Okay, let's go back to the plot summary because I feel like I'm going crazy right now. Okay, we also found out at the end that Albie is the one that burned the maps, which like, obviously. We also figured out that that sign that Thomas saw that said World and Catastrophe Kill Zone Experiment Department is an acronym for Wicked, and remember the girl had written Wicked is good on her arm. So obviously something about this mission, something about this experiment is good, or it was the scientists trying to blackmail them into thinking that. But I do think that there was some kind of intention, like if these boys are geniuses and they agreed to do this maze trial, which is what I'm thinking it is, like I think they're trying to train themselves for something. So I do actually think that Wicked is good, although I'm not sure why the scientists are trying to convince them it's not. Let's continue with the plot. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so 41 of the boys agreed to go into the maze to jump into the abyss, and all the leaders were acting like that was so crazy, like they were shocked that that many people committed, but like, boy, you've been trapped for 2 years. Boy, the sun turned off. They decided to run at night, so hopefully the Grievers weren't in the maze, but then they found out that 12 to 15 of them were actually guarding the exit. All the the Grievers ended up turning on the boys and it became like a bloodbath basically. But they basically had to protect Thomas so he could enter the code into the computer that they were hoping was in the hole. And of course it was there. They ended up doing it, and then the door unlocked and they went inside and there was like a science lab of all these people watching them, which I actually thought was a pretty interesting way to introduce the experiment aspect of it. And then we found out that Gally was alive, which is crazy, and he had a knife and he threw it and was trying to kill Thomas, but then Chuck jumped in front of him, and then Thomas got so mad because Chuck died, which like valid, but then he started beating Gally. Like, Gally was being controlled. So if Gally was being controlled and he knew that, or if they recognized that, why would he start beating him to death? I'm so confused. And then a team of like saviors burst through the doors and shot all of the scientists dead, which I didn't really believe was happening. Like I was like, what's going on? I was so confused reading this part of the book. And then as the guys are being saved, they're taken to a bus and a girl with sores comes up to Thomas and is like, oh my God, save us from the flare or whatever. And he's freaking out and then goes inside the bus, and then they just hit the woman. Like the bus driver just hits the woman. Why did they kill her? I'm so confused. Why did they kill her? Like, I get she's infected or whatever, but we didn't get any explanation for why they just kill the people that are sick, I guess. And then we're being told that these saviors don't like Wicked and they save all the kids that are being experimented on, which sounded valid. I was like, okay, maybe these people are good. Maybe we can trust them. But then at the end, the epilogue implied that all of this was a test. So I'm assuming that the people that saved them didn't actually save them, but they're also part of the team that works with the scientists to like progress these boys to the next stage, I guess. So I'm assuming that's where books 2, 3, 4, and 5 come in, because yes, 5 books, as I said. I'm still just having so much trouble understanding why. Just why, honestly, just why. Like, I'm having trouble understanding what the reason for the maze experiment was in regard to the solar flare and the sickness that's happening, because apparently the flare was like the sun's flares getting super hot and like burning people, giving people sores, and it's some kind of like sickness in their mind that makes them act crazy after that. Something like that. So how is sending a bunch of little boys into a maze where they can't find the exit for 2 years and then sending Thomas in and basically giving them the answer, how is that supposed to prepare them for the solar flares that are happening in the world? I don't understand. I just don't understand. And like I said, all of these questions might be answered in the next book, but a part of me is frustrated by how little wrap up we got regarding the maze in this book, because I'm sure that in the next book we're not talking about the maze anymore. We'll probably talk about the next challenge or experiment. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we address the maze again in the second book and then go into the next challenge. I hope, because I truly think there are so many things that I'm wondering about this story that haven't been answered yet. I think that I'm also having such a big emotional reaction to this book because there was so much buildup that by the end I expected this well-rounded story that made complete sense with a little bow on it. Like, I was expecting that by the end, and I don't think that we got that from this book. And I think that's what's frustrating to me. Like, when I finished it, I was telling everyone in my life, I think I liked it, but also I have so many questions, which I guess is the point. Like I said, this makes me want to read the next book to figure out whether or not the author is going to address the questions that I still have about the maze. I don't know. I just don't know. Let's just get into the rating because I'm done talking about this book. I really did enjoy this book. I thought it was really fun. I got through it pretty quickly. And as you guys know, I thought the author's voice and tone was pretty well done. It didn't read super young adult. It was entertaining. I liked all the secrets, although it did get on my nerves at points. But overall, I really did enjoy this book. I think for now, I'm going to rate this book a 3.5, but if I read the next book and it answered a lot of the questions that I have about this book, this could potentially jump up in rating. If you guys have read the series, please let me know if some of my questions are answered and whether or not I should continue into the next book. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you in my next video. Bye!